I had staff working for me whilst I was employed sort of working for banks. There were some people who really took punts on me in big organisations that potentially shouldn't have been letting a 25-year-old run so much.
Can you just give a brief introduction into sort of your career, your education, where everything started off before 3GI began?
Yes, it's probably an unconventional path to sort of owning tech businesses, to be fair. So I started off as a kid. I was a DJ. We was building UK garage website. We had a World Mixing, which was online mixing decks. We were selling records. I kind of got into startups fairly early age, of sort of 18 or 19, and that was a lot of fun. I was doing a job in the city in bank, or working in banks in technology during the day, and then by night sort of trying to build sort of music online businesses. So I got a good 5 years out of that, but then it kind of started fizzling and you didn't really want the late nights anymore, and I sort of sold one and one sort of went under, as it were. But I never really lost that passion for wanting to have my own thing. Pretty much the whole way through my banking career, I had some form of technology business on the side, which was mainly more infrastructure or end user support management, and it sort of built up over time. I had staff working for me whilst I was employed sort of working for banks. This went on for the best part of 15 years basically, so it went on for quite a while. Now, people don't usually do it across 2 decades, to be fair, but it's quite a common way for people that have come out of an industry. I was lucky, I knew investment banking fairly well, and I was always been a massive technological nerd, so people in banks that knew the tech and the banking side did pretty well, specifically as a contractor. So anyone that comes out of a big industry or a fairly well-paid industry that wants to start up on their own quite often will consult by day, effectively, to hire staff as well, to then bootstrap the business that way. I wouldn't recommend, 2 decades is probably a long time to, for your average startup. I still say we're a startup from that perspective. It is quite a common way to consult and then sort of build something up on the side. So I left banking 2015. That was when 3GI was starting to get where it was going. We had enough money to start building the software development side of the business as well, and it was getting to the point where I was in the height of my racing career. I had first child along the way. I was at my desk at 7 o'clock in the morning in Canary Wharf at Credit Suisse, and it was just getting to the point where I remember I started having anxiety. I've never really understood anxiety, but I started to feel that a bit too much and something had to give. So in 2015 I called it quits from banking, which I miss to a certain extent, but it is nice just being on your own now.
You mentioned there about earlier on always sort of starting businesses. One went under and one you sold. How old were you when you sold that first business?
22. It wasn't for a lot of money, to be fair, but I was 22.
Can you disclose the figure?
Something like that. It was less than 10 grand. So it was,
okay.
Yeah, it
That's
wasn't.
Still pretty cool.
It
At
wasn't
22, you had an exit.
Yeah, it wasn't. I just sold the name and just the kind of software that we had and stuff like that. I think it was more that I realised that when you're staring down the barrel, people wanting to pay you £400, £500, £600, £700, £800 a day consulting, I was actually being flown around the world. I think it was part of my career. I was actually flying. I've lived in Moscow. I lived in Germany. I spent time in Paris. I realised that I wasn't going to be able to do that, and I realised it had some worth. And I kind of grew out of music, because I still do a little bit on the side, but I just realised that I was more of a nerd than a music guy.
Okay, so in your early 20s, you're talking about, so you were earning multiple hundreds of pounds a day as a consultant at that age? I was very lucky, So I think by the time I was probably 24 years old, I was probably breaching 6 figures, something like that. So just 24, 25. But I worked unbelievably hard, and I was in a lucky position where I always able to do some form of sort of project execution. It was always turnaround projects. I was always out there because something was failing and needed to be turned around. Where I had the banking knowledge, but also the technical knowledge, I was able to end up saving a lot of people money. And to be fair, all credit, there were some people who really took punts on me in professional, in big organisations that potentially shouldn't have been letting a 25-year-old run so much. But it all kind of worked out for the best, and I enjoyed it. They were great times as well. I miss, we worked hard and played hard. They were good times. But I do realise that I was particularly fortunate to live so close to London as well, which is kind of, sort of helps the career.